Hello, this is my League Starter guide for a Blight of Contagion Trickster. With the 3.26 update, it received a massive buff, which works out to be about 40% more damage. This skill is some of the smoothest and most satisfying clear I've ever played with. It's going to be insane for Big Boom Expedition, Blight, Legion, Breach. In this video, I'm going to go over all the gear, gems, jewels, and a POB that includes step-by-step leveling for every act, progression throughout the endgame, including a full written guide, which I will link below. So this is our character and standard that I use to record all the footage. It's level 97, but it's minus 13 passive points, so it's effectively level 84. We're in day 1 to 2 gear, which I will go over in just a second, but I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the build first. We have Blight of Contagion. It's the same thing as regular Blight. You press the button, it channels this little wave in front of you, and applies stacks of a chaos damage over time debuff. The normal Blight goes up to 20 stacks, this one goes up to only 6, but it has a much higher base damage. And it can be spread via Contagion. So, as you're mapping, walking around, you just Contagion, and you really only have to tap Blight, because the stacks of Blight will be spread by Contagion and rapidly stack up to 6 by themselves. The only time you'll ever need to hold it down for a little bit is on bosses, but the stacks have a pretty long duration, lasts 6.3 right now, so it stacks up in 1 second. You really only need to hold it down for 1 second every 6 seconds, and you're good. Other than that, we have our gear here. We have a Cane of Unraveling. This is an early weapon you want to aim for. It's going to be a couple chaos. We have a 2-stat helm, 2-stat ring with some the chaos damage essence thrown at it. 1-stat gloves, ignore the fracture. 2-stat belt. Decent boots, actually, but you make up that res elsewhere on all the other gear. The implicits on this chest don't matter. I just had it in my stash, so I threw it on. Only thing that matters here is the energy shield value at the top. 460, that's low. You can get that with a couple dense fossils or a essence early on. Same thing for the other ring. And then the amulet's really the best item we're wearing here. It's got the dot multi and the chaos skill gems. I think that pretty much everyone's going to be playing a broken melee build, so their gear is going to be expensive. Our gear is going to be cheap. The anoint on this, ignore that. So hopefully you can get this on day 1 or 2 pretty easily, honestly. Hopping over to the POB here, I will first talk about the leveling, and then go over the early, mid, and end game setups. Again, I have set up the POB, so in the bottom left here, you can click and select your act, and it will show you exactly where you want to go at each act of the game. And that is the same thing for the gems. Every act is in here up until Act 6, where you get all the gems, and then you want to progress from Act 6 to the start of Maps gems. Going back to Act 1 here, you do want to mule a witch. Unfortunately, it only takes 2 minutes. You just need to defeat Hillock and get to town. There you can get an additional Arcane Surge and a starting wand. I have included information about that on the written guide if you would like to read more. Starting off, though, you can level right away with just regular Blight, and then you pick up Essence Drain towards the end of Act 1. Shield Charge for movement. Withering Step, because we don't get access to Wither or Spell Totems early on, and that will apply our Wither for us during the campaign. Contagion, and a low-level Clarity just for a little bit of mana regen. Into Act 2, you're going to start with a Summon Skitterbots, just for a little bit of extra damage. We don't really have any good options for auras at this point. All the gems still the same thing other than that. In Act 3, you're going to pick up Bane and Despair, and then in your offhand swap, yep, you should be leveling a Grace and Punishment. I kept using the Summon Skitterbots and Malevolence combo. Malevolence picked up in Act 3, and just to deal with early mana. By this point in Act 3, you come down here and you pick up Charisma, so you can fit those in. Later on, though, you will be swapping to Grace. Act 4, by this point, you get your first lab, and I would look to buy a Blight of Contagion as soon as possible. Try to be one of the first people to get it. Again, we don't know how many people are going to be playing this. If it turns out it's a little too expensive, you're going to have to run lab a little bit and just farm one yourself. I kept Essence Drained in here just as additional single target really early on, but I ended up dropping it towards like Act 6-ish. Act 5 is the same thing. We now have picked up the additional Curse by this point, and we can fit in Punishment as well as Despair. Next, I'll go over the Start of Maps section. In the top right here, you can click the Loadouts for Start of Maps. These are just stats that you're going to want to look for. Spell damage, some dot multi, 1 stat shield with +1, increased spell damage works as well. 2 stat helm, 2 stat chest, 2 stat gloves, boots, amulet, rings. All of it is just life and res on everything. We have just a 5 link here. Things are level 19 with no quality on them. Infused Channeling, Arcane Surge got a big buff, so I think that's good to use early over Void Manipulation just for the extra cast speed. It'll feel nice. And we use a Flame Dash linked with... Oh, not Flame Dash. Contagion linked with Arcane Surge for the Arcane Surge proc there. Auras, we have transitioned off of Skitterbots, and we now have Levelland's Grace and a low-level Clarity, just for some mana regen. Our curses are now applied through Bane. Bane of Condemnation actually gives just a little more damage. Not sure if it's really worth using this, but you could. It's not that much more damage, so you could just use a regular Bane. We have our Wither Totem set up now. We have dropped the Withering Step for Wither Totems. And we have Contagion with increased area of effect and Intensify just to give more area of effect to it, as well as that level 1 Arcane Surge. This movement is before you get a staff. You can keep using Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, and Arcane Surge, but if you have transitioned to the early game setup here, now we have a Cane of Unraveling, which you really just get for a couple chaos. And we will transition this to early to mid-game as well. Here, I still have it set to a 5 link. Blight of Contagion, even still on level 19. No quality on your gems. This shouldn't really be here, actually. Let's remove that. And then everything is pretty much the same as the previous one. For our gear, it is the same thing. 2 stats on everything. You're just looking for life, res. I don't even have this in my POB, but at this point it would be a good idea to use the Chaos Essences, Deafening Essence of Envy, and get Chaos damage rolls on your ring. As for the tree here, though, in the early to mid game, you do want to pick up clusters as fast as possible, because on the Trickster side, we just don't have much access to increased damage early on. It just doesn't exist. They added this new wheel over here for dot multi for spells, which you might be taking early on. But you want to work on getting these clusters. This is just a 2 passive cluster. Get them as early as possible, though. Now in the mid-game section, we have the 3 passive ones. Oh, by the way, all of the jewels in this previous section are just 1 damage dot multi jewels. Aim for those. Now in the mid-game section, you do want to, again, go for these clusters as fast as possible, because these are going to be some of your biggest points of damage that you can get early on. Aim for those. Aim for 2 to 3 stat jewels at this point. Spell damage with the staff, dot multi, spell damage, chaos damage, damage over time multiplier, chaos damage over time multiplier. As for the skills, I now transitioned it in the mid to end game sub as a 6 link with quality on the gems. And for our gear, there is a transition period between Cane of Unraveling, which is your early game weapon, and Cane of Kulamak, which is your endgame weapon, which you're probably going to end up with a wand and shield setup here. You're going to look for spell damage, dot multi, +1, spell damage, +1, and then all of the gear here, you're going to start adding your implicits, Despair Curse Effect, Fizz Taken As, Evasion Energy Shield. Evasion Energy Shield with dot multi implicit for unique mobs is really good. You don't really struggle at all with clear. You're only really worried about your single target damage, which is not going to be great early on. Life, movement speed, res, life, movement speed, res. Here I have now Chaos Essence the rings. Chaos Essence it, look for life, hope for resistance, and then craft some resistances on them. And I have transitioned to a crystal belt here as well, which you can roll the strength. You don't actually need... Do you even need this much strength, actually? You need a little bit of strength. So you can either essence the strength on there, roll for strength, and life and resistances. Transitioning to the end game setup, you are going to want to look for a Cane of Kulamak. So with the Betrayal rework, we don't know how rare this is. We're gonna assume that it's the same rarity because almost nobody was using this staff before. Assuming it is the same rarity as it was before, this thing shouldn't be too bad at all to get, really. It is a new addition, though, is that it can roll with a 4th modifier sometimes. Now, getting a 4 modifier Cane of Kulamak is going to be way harder than a 3 mod Cane of Kulamak. So this one is just a 3 mod for now. We also don't know how the 4th mod is going to work. Assuming it's just an additional prefix or suffix. I checked the stats on it, and I believe there was only one possible thing to roll. I can't remember if it was spell damage or I think it was spell damage. So you're going to have to get increased spell damage, or it might have been dot multi. I'll have to double check that. Anyways, you can get one additional stat on here maybe, but this is a 3-stat one. You want to look for chaos damage, increased skill effect duration, that's the hybrid with the chaos damage over time multiplier, and +3 of socketed support gems. +3 socketed support gems, as we're now in the end game setup, end game min-max setup, you're going to want an empower. And this is going to be slotted into the weapon, so your empower gets +3, so it's now giving +6 to your Blight of Contagion. All the gems we're previously using have awakened versions. The craziest one is going to be Void Manipulation for +1 chaos, but Controlled Destruction and Swift Affliction are really good as well. And I've kept on the infused channeling. Briefly, I want to talk about there is a new support gem for specifically channeling skills, but it has a 3-second ramp time. I believe I'll put it on screen. It has a ramp time of, I believe, 3 seconds for 60% more damage. I don't really see that thing being worth using because it takes 3 seconds to ramp and it makes your skill cost 100% more mana. I don't really see that being a viable option. The mana cost itself would already be really, really cringe to deal with, but it is something to consider. We've transitioned to an Enlightened setup. We're now fitting in Purity of Elements in addition to everything. As we have transitioned off one step ahead, we are now dealing with Freeze and Chill by Purity of Elements, and it shores up our shock problems as well. Bane is still the same thing, Wither Totem is still the same thing, and Contagion is still the same thing. At this point, we have transitioned to CI, and we can now solve our suppression with some investment on our chest suffix. You got a Despair and Reservation Efficiency on the implicits here with just big energy shield. For the chest, you want to delete Fizz damage taken and make it take as chaos, so that's just deleted by chaos inoculation. And the gain a frenzy charge every 12 seconds is how we generate all of our frenzy charges. We have moved away from one step ahead, and we are now taking Swift Killer. Gives us +2 maximum frenzies, but the main line is actually going to be the 200% increased charge duration. This allows us to use a chest piece like this that just gives us a frenzy charge every 12 seconds, and those will just stack on top of each other, and you will have maximum frenzy charges permanently. For the gloves, we have the same implicits as before. Chaos.multi for unique enemies really helps us a lot with our single target damage. Little bit of spell suppression just to cap us out, and then as big of ES and evasion rating as you can. Boots, action speed, increased cooldown, recovery rate just feels good. For all of your items, basically at this point, you're just looking for big defenses, intelligence, and evasion or resistance rolls, excuse me. We have a replica Dragonfang's Flight. This has a Blight roll on it. We don't know how expensive this is going to be. It could be 1 or 2 divines, or it could be 10 divines. We don't know. Depends on how many people are going to be playing this, but that is the end game thing you want to look for. Here we have a Cogwork ring. You can also go for, what was the other ring? I forget the name of it already. Helical ring. Cogwork ring is going to be way cheaper. You get energy shield. You roll it with an essence to hit dot multi. You then fracture the dot multi or the chaos damage, and then roll with the other essence. So if you fracture chaos damage, roll with dot multi. If you fracture dot multi, you roll with chaos damage. And then craft the non-channeling or channeling skills have -3. Calandra's Touch, this is going to be contingent on how common T0s are this league. We don't know how good the juice is, but Calandra's Touch is just the best ring that you could throw on an endgame. We have a Crusader Crystal Belt. This gives us the increased maximum energy shield roll by a Crusader, and you just want to roll for energy shield, the increased maximum energy shield, and resistances. For our flasks, Life Flask with bleed immunity, Jade Flask evasion rating. I kept on the Mana Flask for now. You will want to solve this at some point with enough regen from Clarity. That's something I'll have to work out just playing the game though. Kept on a Sulfur Flask, it's a decent amount of damage, and then a Quicksilver Flask as well. For the min-max jewels, you're going to want to look for stuff like this, double dot multi, spell damage, and energy shield. Just drop one of these dot multis, honestly, and it's going to be way cheaper, but these are the min-max jewels. Have a Light of Meaning with chaos damage. This thing is going to give you so much damage. Try to get one early. We don't know how expensive they're going to be. Most people are going to be playing melee builds, so hopefully this isn't too bad. For the Watcher's Eye, I went for dot multi with Malevolence and chance to evade. This gets us evade capped, almost 94% there. You get 1 more percent from just a little bit better evasion rating on your gear, and you are evade capped. So that is going to be it from me. If you like this video, please leave it a like, and if you want to see updates on this build or other builds I do this league, subscribe now. I'm going to leave some raw footage at the end here, just showing a full map on this day 1 to 2 character, so you can get an idea if this is the build right for you. Keep in mind, we are missing the 40% more damage we will be getting with a 3.26 buff. If you have any questions about the build, leave a comment below. I answer every question I can see as fast as I am able. And I might start streaming with this league start, so you can ask me there as well at twitch.tv/pathofky. Once again, if you would like to see a full written guide, I will leave a link to that and the POB below. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Subscribe now and like the video.